Welcome to the next edition of the potential offseason outlook for teams. We're at Vegas, as I'm going in reverse order, which means Vancouver's tomorrow. So with Vegas, this is a really interesting team. Absolutely. Their points totals are this season at 39, 24, and 8, 86 points. Last year they had 43, 32, and 7 was the record for 93 points. The season before, 51, 24, and 9, 109 points. Prorated over 92 games, it means that, or 82 games, 92 would be crazy. 82 games, we would have likely seen them pass that 93-point mark from last year, not end up at 109 points they had the year before, which is about accurate. And with Vegas, I'm not sure where things are headed. I generally don't know. I want to say that I do, but yeah, no idea. None. The interesting thing, too, is that when you look at up-and-coming young players, a lot of the up-and-coming, well, not a lot, but some of the up-and-coming young players you would have expected to be coming in now haven't moved off, whether it's Suzuki or Brandstrom that you're talking about here. A couple of, pretty good young players that Vegas decided to part with in favor of being better now. I do think that Vegas at some point in time pays the price for that. I don't know when that is. I don't know when the organization does pay the price for that. It might be 3, 4, 5 years from now. And if you're a fan of the Golden Knights, it's a risk worth taking. Now, when you look at the UFA and RFA lists for this year, it's not that bad. You've got Ryan Reeves. I would think he sticks around. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't end up staying with the Vegas Golden Knights. Ever since he arrived, it's just been an absolutely perfect fit, both for the team and for the player. Nosek, much the same thing. I can't see Nosek going anywhere. The nice thing is, if Nosek does leave, he's being paid $1 million this year, at least that's his cap hit, you can replace a Thomas Nosek. You can replace him. Reeves, the character side of things might be more difficult to replace. But again, you're not talking about a core player here. John Merrill, he's had some ups and downs this year, as he's had throughout his career. Again, not somebody who's impossible to replace. They may even be able to replace him from within. Derek England, I would think probably retires this summer. So once we know what happens with the season, probably retires this summer. Robin Leonard, if he wants to stay in Vegas, we'll find out soon enough. I get the feeling Leonard wants a shot at a starting job. And some stability. He wants to, get a 3 or 4 year contract. And I would say the way he's played the last couple of years, he's definitely earned it. Word of him having a prickly personality and kind of alienating teams, that's out there as well. So I'll be interested to see what happens with Leonard this summer. Does he end up staying in Vegas or does he go somewhere else? Now, restricted free agents, you've got 2 of them with arbitration, which means they could sit down with an arbitrator at some point. I don't know how arbitration is going to work with everything being squashed together like this. I don't know when you do the arbitrations. Do you have like a week in between all of this stuff? Chandler Stephenson is a restricted free agent with arbitration rights. I'm calling it now. Vegas sits down with them and gets something done. It never goes to arbitration. Nick Cousins, it might. But again, arbitration rights there. So they have rights to both of these guys beyond this season. Cousins wasn't a rental. And Raw. I would think that if Raw wants to stay with the team, again, they'll figure out some kind of a deal. Now, when you get into their contract situation, they're actually in pretty good shape. Now, you can make arguments if you want to about how much money they've given guys like Pacioretty and Stone and whatnot, but they've played really well this year, and the team got better this year than last year. So, when you've got a team that's being favored to potentially win the Stanley Cup, should we get things going again this season, I can't really find any problems with their whole contract structure. Their best contract, and there were a few I went back and forth on, I figure Marchessault, who's at $5 million a year until 2024. Whether he ends up being first line, second line, doesn't matter. You've got a top 6 forward who's at $5 million till 2024, and at worst, he's a 50-point player. At worst. And that's a pretty good contract with some good long-term, it's a good price point long-term, as we'll see contracts in the NHL probably go up, not this summer, obviously, but next summer we may see a dramatic increase. You've got the addition of Seattle. Once the American TV agreement runs out in the States, and then they can get a new deal with ESPN or whoever, we'll likely see contracts go up quite a bit across the National Hockey League. So guys who are being paid $5 million may end up being the huge bargain contracts not too far into the future. Alex Tuch, I came up with as the worst contract. Now, he's at $4.75 million till 2026. If Alex Tuch plays at 100% next season, if he comes into camp and he's fine next year and everything's fine, no problems, and he goes back to being a 50-point player, that contract's fine. I did think that was a long contract at the time it was signed. I did see some potential issues with that, and this is the thing with long-term contracts. You don't know what's going to happen when it comes to injuries. Sometimes players have setbacks in their development, and so we'll see if Tuch bounces back or not. They proved with Eric Halla that if they've got somebody with an injury history or it's just not fitting in, not working out, that they'll move him. They moved Cody Eakin at the deadline as well. They have proven that they're able to move out contracts if they need, and we'll see if Tuch becomes one of those other ones that ends up being moved out at some point to make room for somebody else. Because ideally, you are refreshing your lineup regularly. Now, for next season, they're at $72.6 million in cap money spent, according to Cap Friendly. And honestly, I don't see them having any big problems. Now, if Leonard wants to stick around and if he wants the big money, he's not going to get it in Vegas. So if he wants really big money, it's not happening in Vegas. They're already paying Fleury $7 million. You're not going to give Leonard $7 million as well. You're not paying $14 million for your goaltending. I can't see Vegas doing that. And then if you gave him $7 million, that right there would bring them to $79.6 million for next year. Again, we don't know what's going to happen with the contracts, whether everything's going to get prorated, drop down. Because again, we're in a once-in-a-lifetime experience right now. So who knows? But where it's projected to be and what could potentially happen, Leonard isn't going to get that huge money contract from Vegas. So I guess we'll see what they do with that contract and with that player coming up this summer. Because Vegas definitely has needed to have two goaltenders they have some faith in. And they didn't have that faith in Malcolm Subban. They just didn't. So whether that's right or wrong, whether that's damning of Subban or damning of the coaching decisions or of the franchise, we'll find out soon because Subban's out, but they need to have two goaltenders they have some faith in here. Rookie watch, you know what? For rookies coming in next year, I think the most likely, Payton Krebs might get a look. Payton Krebs fell in the draft due to injury last year. And when Vegas picked him up, that was seen as a steal. And it still looks like a steal. He's had a very good year this year in juniors. And he looks like he should be ready to come up next year. Now, of the other ones on the board here, Lucas Elvenish has been playing at Chicago, as has Dylan Coghlan. They may very well come up and get a look next year. I think Jimmy Schultz probably gets a look right out of camp. If they move on from Merrill and England, that means there's going to be a spot opened up probably for one of the kids in the lineup. I would think Schultz might be the closest one due to age and due to the fact that they put him in the lineup last season as soon as they'd signed him. Clearly the team is high on him, and so I think they're going to want to take a look. But, Coghlan's shown some good signs at the American League level, so there's no certainty on this one at all. Vegas is a curiosity. It's a curiosity to me as a fan, because expansion isn't supposed to work like this. You look at them right now; they'll be going into year 4 this coming fall, year 4, and potentially being a team that's never missed the playoffs, potentially being a team that's been somewhat favored in each playoffs, and being a team that is genuinely seen as a Stanley Cup contender. For Seattle, the bar's been raised pretty high. I know there were plenty of people who felt this was kind of a fluke, and the NHL's just favoring Vegas. Wait till next year, it's going to change. And then when the second season happens, and there's somewhat of a drop-off, and you look at some of the players who were traded and who was acquired in exchange, there was certainly a lot of criticism of not thinking long-term. And I don't know that necessarily there is a lot of thinking long-term, but it's worked out so far. Like I said, they're 15 games above 500 right now. They were 11 games under 500 last season. So it's worked so far. And I wouldn't rule out that Vegas is still a contender next season. And with the contract certainty they have with their players, they don't have anybody making $10 million a year. Closest you get is Stone at 9.5. I mean, I could have put Stastny's contract up there as a bad one, but Stastny was playing well for the last month and a half that Vegas played. So I think this team's in pretty good shape, but we'll find out maybe later in the summer and maybe in the fall. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.